Please note, for maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR.
Welcome to Adjust Your Tracking, a podcast where clearing out our movie backlogs by going year by year, decade by decade for a century of cinema. And I'm Liam.
And I'm Ollie.
And we have started the show.
How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I am actually doing really good. I'm all hyped and I can't stop doing impressions of this film.
You've got a big day today, and you've got a presentation, an online presentation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got a bloody online what you call it, a conference to go to.
So I'm guessing this was originally meant to be an in-person conference.
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was meant to be in a little village called Trefonen.
Ooh, how far away is that from you?
I don't know. North.
It's north of me. Okay.
It's north. Long enough. I think it's quite far north to me. I'm quite far south, so.
Are these what you've been making the videos for?
Yes, I have been. But I think I'm presenting at 2:00. So when we release this episode in 4 weeks, then we could say at 2:00. 2:00 4 weeks ago, I was presenting, so tune in.
So yeah, what else you been up to during your lockdown?
Mainly, I don't know, being incredibly paranoid about coronavirus. I think I'm just convinced that I'm going to get sick and die. Frankly,
anytime I get post or I buy food, I anti-back it.
Oh, I know.
I don't know if that's overreaction, but
I tend to if I get something delivered to me. So I was trying to get a NAS drive working, so every time I got something delivered for it, I would kind of tear everything open, take everything out inside, and then kind of dispose of anything, and then clean myself 100 times.
I anti-backed a banana the other day. A banana. I never thought I'd ever do that. You've got that image in your head now.
Yes. You would lube over the banana. You know you don't eat the skin.
I do know that, but I don't. I still have to hold it.
Well, just clean your hands after you've eaten it.
I know, but I wasn't thinking straight.
The world's mad. The world's mad.
So anyway, what movies you been watching this week?
I've been really exciting, and I've been watching Gus Van Sant films.
Oh, have you seen Jerry yet? Is it Jerry?
Yeah, I watched Jerry yesterday.
I like Jerry.
I really, really liked it.
I haven't seen it in about 15 years, but I actually like it. I went through a phase of the early to mid 20s 2000s where I'd really go after obscure or indie films. I mean, I still do now, but not to the extent I did back then. Do you remember we went through that period of we would just buy Japanese films just because it was Japanese and never watch them?
More like Korean films, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, like Dragonhead and Natural City and I don't know. Zatoichi, that was a good one though.
Zatoichi is really good. What was that? Was it Zebrahead?
Zebrahead, yeah.
That was good.
Wasn't that a Takeshi Miike film?
I think it's Takeshi Miike. Takeshi Miike makes so many films.
He's made over 100 films, man. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, that was this year.
Already this year.
Yeah. Have you ever watched his Ace Attorney film?
He did that film?
Yeah.
Based on the DS game.
Am I mixing them up? Am I mixing up Japanese people? Am I being really...
I hope he does a Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney movie.
Yes. You should have done you should have done the Pokemon film.
Was the school one Volcano High, which was basically like Dragon Ball Z?
Yes, it was Volcano High. Yeah, because they were all doing Kamehamehas at each other.
I kind of got a bit bored by that one.
It is. Yeah, I agree. My God, I can't go through Takeshi Miike's fucking film. It's Zebraman 2.
Not even though you didn't make the first one.
No, I think he did. He did make Ace Attorney. I wasn't fucking wrong. I got scared then. 2012, yeah.
Yeah, what was his big one? Ichi the Killer, an Audition.
Ichi the Killer, Audition. Did he do?
Oh, he did The Happiness of the Katakuras as well. Or I think I'm pronouncing it right. Because I remember you bought that and we watched him. We're like, what the fuck is this? It's amazing.
It's amazing. I've seen it so many times. He did do Happiness Categories. I'm getting mixed up, but he did 13 Assassins. 13 Assassins is a great film.
That's it.
It's such a fantastic film. I think he did one. Actually, I think he did one that I've put on our schedule for the 2010s or something like that. I can't remember.
No spoilers, no spoilers.
I know.
So Gus Van Sant, yeah.
Little tease. Yeah, Gus Van Sant. So I watched his Death trilogy basically. So that's Jerry, Elephant, and Last Day.
Oh, so I've seen all of those. I didn't realise they were called his Death trilogy.
Death trilogy. Well, I'm really, as you can see, I'm in a good mood watching his Death trilogy at the moment. But Jerry, I really liked, even though it's very slow and long. But it's an homage to two things which did make me laugh. Bellatar, the Hungarian film director, who's known for his incredibly long kind of scenes and takes. Like, I think he did a whole film about a horse being beaten to death in Turin or something.
Who did the film that's like 7 hours long and it's only got like 100 shots in the whole film?
It could be Bellatar, but I don't know.
Anyway,
and it's also influenced by Tomb Raider, because they basically say that the thing with video games is you can't cut away from stuff, so you're always following a character walking.
Okay.
So that's what the film tries to do, is that because they're walking a long way, the film tries to constantly follow them walking and not cut away.
So it's Casey Affleck, isn't it, and Matt Damon?
Yeah.
And they
Affleck and Damon.
They both have as good an ass as a pixelated Lara Croft, that's for sure.
Yes. And better boobs.
Better boobs. Do you remember how pointy her boobs were in that first game?
It was an error, wasn't it? The programmers. They accidentally put the wrong settings in and accidentally gave her massive pointy boobs. And just kept it because,
So what did you think of Elephant?
I loved it, actually. I had a bad opinion of those three films. And I've never actually sat down and watched them. I realise I like Gus Van Sant, but I've actually seen little of his films. So I thought I finally have to kind of catch up. And people kept on saying how Elephant's really bad, but actually I think it really holds up, and I think it actually is really good.
So if no one knows, Elephant is about school shooting.
Yeah, it's strongly based on kind of Columbine, or influenced by. It's not based on.
And Jerry's just about two people stranded in the desert. I can't remember what the reason was. It's been that long.
It's again based on a real life situation where two guys going for a hike and get lost, and they just walked through the desert
and the other
to try and kind of find safety.
What's the other one? Is it Last Days?
Last Days, which is basically based on Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
And him killing himself, really. So.
Did you ever see the Kurt Cobain documentary, Montage of Heck?
No, I didn't actually.
It's really good, man. I mean, it is produced by Courtney Love, so it's probably maybe a bit one-sided, and
sure.
And Dave Grohl is nowhere to be found in it, apart from archival footage of because they don't get on, do they? But Chris Novoselic's in it though.
I was going to ask that. Yeah, I was going to say I do think people are a little too harsh to Courtney Love. That's my slight defense of it. I know she's a bit of a mess, but to accuse her of killing her husband just because she's a bit of a mess is a little much.
Yeah, I don't think she did that. I think it was just a bit of... He was a young guy who met a girl that he really liked and just kind of was a bit besotted by her.
Yeah,
and
they both had a bit of an issue with drugs.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah. And it probably rubbed the other members of Nirvana up the wrong way, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And they're young as well. People always forget that people are so fucking young in bands.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, 100%. I tell you what I watched.
Okay, yeah.
I watched Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, dear.
Do you know when I watched it?
When?
3:00 this morning. I woke up and I'd only watched a little bit of it. And I thought, I can't sleep. I'll just finish watching Sonic the Hedgehog. So I watched Sonic the Hedgehog.
Don't you think, this is why I wanted you to watch that, don't you think every choice they made from a screenwriting point of view is baffling in that film? The introduction, spoilers for Sonic, guys, the introduction where he's in his own world getting attacked by animals or something, and then he's looked after by an owl, and then what is that? It's not even Sonic I know at that point.
It looked like the ones that were after him were like Knuckles, like the red hedgehog.
Oh, I guess, yeah, Echina, yeah.
I mean, my Sonic lore goes as far as Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and that's it.
Well, anyone's the fact that Green Hill Zone in this film is the town he lives in Wisconsin or wherever the fuck he is.
It's a real place.
Is shit. The fact that like he escapes his real Sonic land and then lives in Green Hill in Montana. I don't know where the bumfuck America is, and then he spends 10 years living there is a baffling fucking like screenwriting choice, to the point when Sonic is the most annoying character in the world because he's just pop culture references.
Oh yeah,
which Sonic has never been, just constant pop culture, because he's lived on Earth for 10 years, so he might as well just be, human.
I mean, if I'm honest, I really didn't think that hard about it. I watched it, and I think I've forgotten it already. It's that forgettable.
And they spend half the movie is their road trip.
I remember you sending me a picture, and I think it's of a film called Hop.
Yeah.
With James Marsden sitting in a car with a CGI character.
Looking as involved in the scene as he does in this.
What do you think of Jim Carrey in it?
I thought he was amazing. I thought he was the only reason to watch it. I think he's really switched on.
The scene where he's like waiting for the hedgehog spike or whatever to kind of do whatever it's doing.
Oh, yeah, he's doing
he's playing like a virtual video game where he's running from a T-Rex and all that kind of stuff. I was laughing quite a bit. That was like That was like Kerry back in the mid-90s kind of.
It's very Edward Nygma,
and it just reminded me of how much I missed that Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
and I liked him at the end when he's got the full-on Robotnik mustache.
Me too.
I thought he would have gotten fat, but because they call him Eggman in this because of the shape of his robots.
Of course, yeah, because he's called Eggman because of the shape of his body in the comics.
And at the beginning where they throw the ring and you see the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah,
I thought that was a joke.
Mario joke, yeah. Yeah, I hate mushrooms. I guess it is, but
it kind of went on a bit.
Everything went on a bit in that fucking film. I just wanted Sonic to shut the fuck up. I was like, just stop having lines in this film. Just go away.
Like, he was spaffing over going into that biker club, and I'm like, why are you so excited to go into that biker club?
Well, that's part of the film where you're doing Sonic's bucket list. What everybody wanted to see. I hated it. Did you see Tails at the end?
Of course I did.
It's voiced by the actual person who used to voice Tails in.
I was going to say it sounded like the cartoon version of Tails,
which again took me more out of the fucking thing that Sonic's voiced by the Parks and Recs guy Ben. What's his name? And then Tails is voiced by actual Tails. It's just that's
actual Tails.
Look, it's really Tails in this now.
It is just a bizarre movie that is. I mean, it's a kids' movie at the end of the day.
It's very much a kids' film. Yeah, I think I really liked Detective Pikachu a lot. Like, not that I think it's a perfect film, but I really enjoyed it, and because of that, it was really honest to the kind of Pokemon lore as such. Like, it felt like they were treating it seriously. And you got, like, Ken Watanabe in it, who's taking the film seriously. He's giving a performance and stuff.
Right.
And I was kind of thinking after that, maybe when they do another CGI video game thing, they'd take it a bit more seriously. But this, it wasn't. It was just absolutely just made as a kid's film to play on kind of kids' Netflix and to kind of just be on play at home all the time. And it kind of just disappointed me that I think they didn't try harder. Do
you wish you could have seen the original version with the original Sonic?
Oh my god!
I watched the trailer, and I can't. I like whoever signed off that concept was like, "Yep, that's our Sonic."
Well, I think the problem is whoever signed off that concept signed off the script, and the CGI model is as bad as the script version of Sonic. The problem is they didn't get to change the fucking script. They got to change the CGI model so it looks like Sonic, but the script's still fucking there.
Yeah, I still haven't seen the Pokemon movie. I need to watch that. But
I really enjoyed it.
He's
got a little hat, and it's a detective hat.
Really?
Yeah, that's like the plot of the film.
What are they called? Deer stalkers.
Is that a deer stalker? I always get confused.
I think so. What was I going to say? Yeah. So the original design of Sonic, it kind of has a lot more in relation to cats in the way that it hit into that uncanny valley where it just looked trying to look photorealistic but looking really off-putting at the same time. I don't know if this Sonic in the film looked a bit too cartoony though. I don't know if they went a bit too the other way.
Yeah.
They stood out too much and didn't
The
look
problem, the
integrated
problem is
into the
the
world.
film. Yeah, exactly. If it was just a Sonic movie, then he looks perfect. But
Yeah,
it's not. It's this weird fucking road trip in America movie with the cop, and he does not really fit into the world they were trying to do in that way. Like he doesn't look like an alien or something, because that's what he's meant to be. He looks like a cartoon hedgehog.
Like,
So
is it the highest grossing film of this year now, or there near?
no, 'cause it came out last year.
No, it came out this year, didn't it?
No, it came out last year.
No, it didn't.
It's the highest grossing video game film of all time.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's have a look.
I think the highest grossing film of this year is Bad Boys.
Oh, okay. Sonic the Hedgehog came out on February the 14th.
Did it?
Yeah.
Did it?
Don't forget, we're living in a world where films are just coming out straight away now because they can't.
Yeah, it just, I realised February the 14th feels like it was about 7 years ago.
Yeah, because we've been stuck in the house and it's been Sunday for the past 3 weeks.
Oh man, it's bizarre. And this is coming out like in quite a few weeks, so I hope the world's still okay.
Yeah,
God.
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, man.
But yeah, I really didn't think too deeply about Sonic.
Oh, I thought a lot about it. I don't know why.
Because they're making a Mario movie now, aren't they, as well?
Apparently.
But I think it's either by Blue Sky Animations, who...
Which one, the Blue Sky again?
I think they did Horton Hears a Who and maybe The Grinch or something like that.
Okay.
But I get them confused with Illumination as well, who I think do like the Despicable Me movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Illumination, who are the ones that do the stop motion stuff? What are they called again?
Oh, Leica.
Leica, that's okay. I think I mixed them up.
Leica are a weird anomaly because they're owned by the owner of Nike shoes.
Is that really?
Because his son Travis, who directed Kubo, and I think he directed Bumblebee.
Okay.
He was an animator, and he just said, "Dad, I want my own animation studio." Literally,
Daddy,
pretty much.
Daddy, could I have a studio?
So it doesn't matter if none of their films make any money because they're funded by Nike. So they have distributions with different companies, but I think all their films are just funded by themselves, and it really doesn't matter if. But there's an animator who works for them called Oliver Jones.
There is. Didn't he win an Oscar?
No, he was nominated for Kubo, but they were all nominated for Kubo because it was for best
yeah. I didn't mean individually. Yeah.
But so he went to White House Common, which was the same junior school that me and Liam went to. Then he went to Fairfax, which was the high school that I went to. Liam went to a posher. I wouldn't say posher, but definitely
I'm a little posh boy.
A little posh boy. He went to what do you call it? What was Bishop Vesey?
It's a grammar school.
Grammar school, yeah. So yeah, he went to the same. He was a few years above me, but went to the same school, both schools as me, and he was always like the top at art every year. And so when that film was like up for the Oscars,
that's so weird.
I had an influx of people adding me on Instagram, on Facebook, congratulating me, and on Twitter, and I was like, "Why am I getting all this? Where's this coming from?"
I'm pretty sure there was like an article in the newspaper where it went like Birmingham-born or Sutton Coldfield-born Oliver Jones gets nominated for Oscar, and I'm like, really? Fucking hell, Ollie! Like
that quiet.
Keep this from me. Yeah. Like...
So yeah, he's kind of like the better version of me. That's.
I have a guy in my work who I always think about that as being someone who keeps doing exactly what I want to do.
Right.
And like he's always like 2 steps ahead of me, no matter what I do.
Curses!
Yeah, curses!
Damn you!
I've got a nemesis and he has no idea, even though he's a lovely guy as well.
So what are we talking about today then, Liam?
No, we're not. I'm going to ask you about cats, because you mentioned cats really briefly. Do you know on film Tom Hooper said that the dancers couldn't wear mocap suits because it would inhibit them to be able to dance.
They didn't have mocap suits on.
No, they're just wearing fucking these beige leotards or like a green leotard to be green screen, and that's why the fucking animators had so much trouble doing anything. Like their faces float off their bodies.
Getting them
and
to
stuff like that
kind of track onto them. You mean?
Yeah, because they had to just track onto just a moving object, not a mocap.
Well, I heard that with The Irishman because Scorsese didn't want them to have to wear dots and stuff like that on their faces, so apparently that's why that took ages to do, because they had to manually track everything and create new programs that could track the actors. So it's creating new technology.
So after the trailer came out and the world shat the bed kind of collectively over what the hell they were doing.
I think shit the bed is one of my favourite terms. It is. Anytime someone says shit the bed, I always piss myself. I don't know why. It's just...
And the studio apparently cut the budget, the post budget, whatever.
Post-production.
So it meant that the animators who were already up against the fucking wall trying to do something that was basically impossible had their budget and time cut to be able to kind of perfect it. And that's kind of a huge reason why it looks like complete arse. And I even like the I don't know if you've watched it, but the composition.
I
can't talk this morning.
Yeah.
Of the scenes look terrible. Like they're on like a big CGI railway, and they just look like these huge standout animated characters that don't sit in the world at all. And I hate the fact that people are shitting on the kind of
the
CGI guys for it. Yeah,
it's not their fault.
When they had the hardest task and no tools to do it.
None of them are going to put it on their CV, surely, though.
I'd stay away. No.
There was.
Well, they probably put. I guess they work for a studio, don't they? So
there was there's a guy on Twitter that I follow who's working on the new Ghostbusters, like in the special effects side of it, and someone commented on the picture, and it said, and it turns out the guy who commented on it is also an effects artist, but he worked on the Ghostbusters from 2016, and he just commented, "You got the good one. I got the shitty 2016 one."
To be fair, the visual effects in that 2016 one are brilliant. I love them. It's the best thing about that film.
It's okay, but to me, it just kind of looks like every other film where everything's just. I don't know how to say this, but it just looks too perfect.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what I mean? It just looks too crisp and clean. And when a film's set in New York, it should feel a bit dirty and a bit grimy. And I don't know.
That's the whole thing about a lot. Like the Marvel films, to me, always just look a little too clean.
Yeah, they do.
You just want something to be a little filmier, like a little kind of like messed up. And that's because everything's shot in, like, you know, in isolation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's either shot on a green screen or on digital cameras or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or every shot is augmented by something in. But anyway. Yeah, I need to watch Cats. I am interested, but the thing is, you talk about the effects and stuff, and but the film must have been flawed before any of the effects were applied. Do you know what I mean? It was just a bad idea from the start.
It's Tom Hooper's the problem in that film, by far. His obsession with trying to make something that feels like reality is rubbish. It's just stupid, and musicals don't work that way.
Yeah,
musicals shouldn't try and make a musical feel realistic, because then your two elements of your brain that you have to suspend a lot of disbelief anyway to watch a musical, and then the other side of your brain saying, look how realistic this is. I'm just going to, like, Les Mis, his version of Les Mis is such a problem because it's trying to pretend it's really the French Revolution, but they're singing, like, so it means that it has this clash in your head where it doesn't work, and musicals need to be bigger, louder, and kind of set pieces. And most of the time, I think it's not even worth adapting kind of stage musicals. It doesn't pay off that well. But to do Cats in that way is bonkers. Like, have you ever seen the Steven Spielberg produced version of Cats they were doing in like the kind of 90s? I think it was.
No, I didn't know this was a thing.
You can look at the artwork; it's wonderful, and they look like kind of Oliver and Company and Aristocats. And they all look kind of it's fully animated.
So to be honest, doing it as a Disney cartoon would probably have been better, not a photorealistic.
I mean, I hate Cats. I'm like, I hate the musical. But if you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it, not whatever the fuck they did.
Yeah.
And even the best thing about Cats is the dancing, and the dancers they got to do the film Cats as well. Most of the cast of it are like that kind of crowd who are all like professional dancers. You got the guy who plays the railway cat is one of the best kind of dancers in the world, and I think the girl who plays Victoria is as well. But the way they shoot that dancing ruins the dancing because Tom Hooper can't fucking shoot shit. So like you don't get to even see the really good like dancing and really good movements of them because he's cutting at the wrong point. He's doing weird close-ups. And so it ruins the best thing he had going for it, which is the fact that he hired a bunch of really good dancers. So it's just a mess.
But
like, every point of it.
Before Christmas, he at least directed 2 or 3 episodes of Dark Materials.
Yeah, he did.
Because obviously he was there to set the tone, and so that every other director that helms an episode like adheres to his kind of vision. But I thought that looked great.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was a great show, and
I really like it too.
It proves he can do something because he did King's Speech as well, which was okay.
I really like King's Speech. I think
do?
that's a good film, but I don't think he's done another good film. Danish Girl is a horrible fucking film.
That film.
And then Les Mis is bad, and then Cats is bad. Is there another film I'm forgetting? Probably, I don't know, but
the Danish Girl I haven't seen, but it just looked like a horrible attempt at just trying to Oscar bait or something.
Yes,
because it's taking a very serious subject, and that needs to be handled at least delicately. And I haven't seen the film, so it could do, but it just felt like Eddie Redmayne
don't want
wanting
a
an
trans
Oscar.
story to do.
Yeah.
Basically, it does everything, does all of it, and it's the wrong company doing it. It's the wrong cast. It's the wrong director. And the story is just it's treated very badly. It really is.
Every time I saw pictures of Eddie Redmayne dressed up, he looked like. Have you seen A Matter of Loaf and Death, the Wallace and Gromit short film?
Okay,
he looked like a Wallace and Gromit character from. I just couldn't look past it.
I quite like Eddie Redmayne.
He's all right. He's good at as Newt Scamander.
I think he's really good at Newt Scamander. Those films are,
bit iffy.
A bit iffy, but I think he's brilliant. And I think I love him as in Jupiter Ascending. Is it called?
I need to watch that one. Isn't he like proper hamming it up in that?
Oh, he's fucking bathing in the river of ham to have a word. Is that Kenneth Branagh from Thor? Like, what was the quote? It's fucking amazing. It's like, don't worry, I've bathed in that river many times before. Get yourself fully submersed or something. I think he says to the cast or something. I can't remember what it is, but it's wonderful.
I need to rewatch that first Thor as well. It's probably better than I remember. I just remember you thinking, Asgard looks ace, but then most of the film's just in a dusty desert, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. The worst thing about the Thor films is that they don't ever get you to really feel what Asgard's like. So, like, in the same way in Black Panther, you really feel what Wakanda's like. You get a really good sense of geography of it. You get a really good sense of the people living in it and what life is like there.
I kind of disagree with that, but
I think you do. And then Asgard, it's pointless. Asgard, I don't know if they're all gods. I don't know if they're all powerful. I don't know what's the general life of someone living in Asgard. Is there a shopkeeper? Is there a farmer? Is there like...
You definitely get a sense of Wakanda being a place where people live, whereas Asgard, you see about 12 people milling around, and that's about it.
Yeah, but don't forget Asgard's a people, not a place. I hate. I know that Thor Ragnarok's a really good film. I know that. It doesn't mean I like it. So anyway, this year we're looking at 1993. So for you, what stands out in 1993 as films in that year?
Well, clearly one of the biggest films ever came out that year, didn't it? It was Jurassic Park. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing that logo everywhere. And like that was a killer year for Spielberg because he also did Schindler's List.
Also did Schindler's List, I was going to say, yeah.
And which started off like a trend for him where he started to do like 2 films. Like he'd have a break for a couple of years and then he would come out with a bang with like 2 films. So it was like this year it was Jurassic Park, Schindler's List. Another year it was like The Lost World and Amistad.
Was that the same year as well? There was Tintin and something else came in the same year, didn't it?
Tintin and Warhorse.
Warhorse, yeah.
And he
I
did
hate Warhorse.
Minority Report and Catch Me If You Can and I think it was BFG and Bridge of Spies, and then he did The Post and Ready Player One. But anyway.
Do you think that Jurassic Park would have won Best Picture if he didn't make Schindler's List the same year? Do you think he fucked up?
Well, he didn't fuck up because he still won it.
Well, he didn't win it, but it's weird that Jurassic Park doesn't get any kind of nominations or any look at awards. But it's kind of stood the test of time such a big way that it's a huge film, you know.
Well,
And it's
was
I
special
think
effects
because-
around then? Was the effects award must have been around then? So it must have won
must have
things
been.
like that.
But
But
let's have a look.
don't get me wrong,
Best visual effects was Jurassic Park. You're right.
I love Jurassic Park, but it's not a film that would win an Oscar. I don't think.
I think now it would get more of a look in. I think the 90s in the Oscars are very weird because they're very much it's before they kind of drop it to the 10 and now it's like the optional 10. It's really about this kind of Oscar baity kind of films, and
I'll tell you what,
there's a lot of films in that period where people haven't even seen they get nominated for Best Picture.
it's got an amazing cast though for a blockbuster film because it's not filled with your typical stars, is it? You know, you've got Sam
Not at
Neill,
all, no.
Laura
Sam Neill,
Dern, Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum was relatively not a thing then, really. I mean, he was a star, but he wasn't what when people think Jeff Goldblum now. It's a very different picture.
He did The Fly, and he
Yeah.
did Earth Girls Aren't Easy. And I can't.
Is it that film I don't like, Big Chill? Isn't he in that?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. But yeah, you've also got Mrs. Doubtfire came out that year, which
my
Robin
God.
Williams is fantastic in that film.
Yeah, he is. That film doesn't totally hold up, but Robin
There are
Williams
some
is
funny
great in
bits though, like when he throws a lime at Pierce Brosnan's head.
it. Drive-by fruity.
Yeah, it's an amazing bit. And then
I think everyone in the world can go like, "Hello,"
hello.
and know what you're doing.
You got The Fugitive, which I only saw for the first time, I think, earlier this year, maybe.
That is a film which I always think is trashier than it is. No, sorry. I think is. Oh, wait, what am I saying here?
The opposite. So you think it's more highbrow than it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's not that it's bad. I love it. It's a really good film, but it's a very much a kind of. It's just a. I don't know. It could be any cop drama or anything like that. It's just kind of really good fun and fast moving and.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. You got The Firm, meh. Indecent Proposal,
I like The Firm. I like The Firm a lot. Actually.
Cliffhanger,
Oh my god. John
which
Lithgow.
introduced me to John Lithgow as a villain,
A villain, yeah.
which he'd obviously played villains before, like in
Oh yeah, Blowout.
Blowout.
And Raising Cane.
Had that
as
come
well.
out before? Had that come out before or
I
after?
think Raising Cane's before.
Was it
yeah.
before? Sleepless in Seattle,
I love
Philadelphia.
Sleepless in Seattle. Philadelphia is an amazing film.
and the-
There's a film that people think are kind of is Oscar baity, but actually go back and watch it.
No,
Now.
it's really
actually,
good.
It's really
Yeah.
quite high art.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of surprising.
And
Groundhog Day is 1993.
See, that should have been up for an Oscar for sure.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
Bill Murray was so good in that film.
Nightmare Before Christmas is 1993 as well. So you got a lot of these kind of films that really have stood the test of time and actually inserted itself into kind of culture at large, really.
Yeah, The Night Before Christmas has become a bit annoying though, I think.
Yeah.
But I remember we saw that at the
I
cinema.
don't
'cause
blame the original film, though.
I won tickets through the local newspaper to go and see that, so we went to go and see it.
Oh, really? Is that why we went to go see it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Loaded Weapon 1. I'm still waiting for Loaded
God.
Weapon 2.
Still waiting.
The Crying Game, Army of Darkness.
The Crying Game and Army of Darkness are the year before.
Not on my list. No, they're not.
And maybe they're January releases.
26th of February, Army of Darkness.
Okay. That's the year of film problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd say one film I really like that came out this year is The Wedding Banquet, Ang Lee film.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that
It's
one.
really, really, really good and really stands up, actually. And I'd recommend people check that out.
Oh, My Neighbor Totoro came out.
Wow. Is that when it got its UK release?
Must be, yeah. Or American release. So Menace Society came out, which I need
Oh,
to
yeah.
see as well because that might be quite a good complementary piece to
Yeah.
Boys in the Hood.
To Boys in the Hood, yeah.
Super Mario Brothers the movie. Speaking of Sonic, Last Action Hero.
Oh, Last Action Hero show really holds up. I love that.
I
film.
do like it, but I wish at the end when they've got the ticket when you got Ian McKellen coming out as the Grim Reaper from the Seventh Seal. Like you can imagine if they were to make that film now, there'd be loads more characters coming out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would 100% star The Rock.
It would star The Rock. They should make a sequel starring The Rock. That'd be a good Rock film.
Free Willy, Hocus Pocus. Because it could be almost that The Rock is doing the reboot of the Jack whatever his name is movies.
Whatever the in-film character is.
It could totally work, and you could still have Arnie in it.
Really easy. Yeah,
and he could know about what's.
Yeah, because you'd have Arnie in real life, so he has to go find real life Arnie to find out what the fuck's going on or something. And then and Arnie and Rock.
Right, we're making it. We're writing the spec script.
the next last action hero.
Yeah, the last
That's
action
what I'm
hero.
calling it.
The next to last action. I don't know. Anyway, so what also came out?
What also came out is Freaked, and I know you want to speak about Freaked.
Oh yes, Freaked. What did you think of it?
It's definitely a film that got stopped being made halfway through.
Oh, 100%. So this film was kind of like an offshoot of a TV series that well, originally there was a short film that Alex Winter from Bill and Ted fame made with his friend. And it was a short film, and it was basically like an extended Butthole Surfers music video.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like it was like a spoof of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was called, if you just bear with me while I refer to my notes, it was called The Barbecue Movie.
Oh God!
And so from the success of that short film, and obviously he'd been in the Bill and Ted movies, they made like an MTV show that was like a sketch show, and it was called Idiot Box, and it was kind of it was like a bit of a mixture of Mad Magazine and Monty Python. But you know, like how Beavis and Butthead, it would have like 2 minutes music video, 2 minutes music video. It was like that. So it was created to kind of showcase music videos, but to have like little interstitial gags and stuff like that in between.
Like Syphil and Ollie as well.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. And because of that, they started to write a feature film, which was almost meant to be like a Butthole Surfers movie, again, like the short film.
Sure.
But then it evolved into its own kind of thing. And the head of Sony Pictures loved the film that much that he was like, here you go, here's $12 million. We're going to make action figures. We're going to make this like a big thing. But with all studios, they constantly changing who the hierarchy is in these, like kind of firing
he got
people.
fired, didn't he? Yeah.
So he got fired. And the guy who took over basically said, this is shit, I hate it. And kind of during post-production just cut the budget so they couldn't have half of the music they wanted to have and a lot of the grandiose effects in and stuff. But I think for what it is, like the makeup effects and stuff like that, I think they're good fun.
I really like the makeup effects a lot, and I really like the kind of claymation stuff in it. That's my favourite stuff about it. When it's not doing that, I think it needs not to be in it, almost.
I agree. It's like, a bit of a weird film. But
I like I said to you that it's the fact that Alex Winter's face gets this huge prosthetic on it and he can't speak properly during it. It's really funny to me. And I wonder if they meant to ADR it and ran out of money and they couldn't.
Well, I thought they did ADR it because if you look at his mouth, he's barely even opening his mouth.
He's barely maybe he did. I don't know. But it's really funny that the lead character can suddenly basically stop being able to talk quite well halfway through the film.
Like he plays like, obviously purposely so he's a horrible character, but he's so irritating in it. But there are some.
It's one of those problems. We were saying that last week with Glengarry Glen Ross. One of the problems with the film is that I don't like anyone in it, so you stop kind of caring a little bit, and that's a problem with the film. But it's a very 1993 thing to write, I think.
Not even Keanu Reeves as a dog boy or Mr.
He's not even credited.
No, he couldn't be because he didn't get paid enough. So I think it's all to do with unions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But he obviously did it because him and Alex Winter are like best friends.
Buddies, yeah.
But you've got
he's really good in it. He's really committed to it. I liked Mr. T in it a lot, though I don't like the character in it.
Right.
If that makes sense. Because like everyone else has this grandiose like changing to them. Like it's all big like claymation and things and stuff. And his is just like he got turned into a woman with a beard. And I feel like it would have been funnier if they'd lent into that more, like if it was like just a big beard on like a woman's body or stuff like that that would have fit the rest of the film. Like it just didn't feel loud enough to me when everything else was so loud. I loved Bobcat Goldthwait's character,
the man with a hand for a face,
sock puppet. Yeah, I thought that was so funny.
You've got a giant worm, you've got a guy with a giant nose. Yeah,
they all hate him, and that really makes me laugh.
Yeah,
that was a funny gag.
If you watch though, if you notice, Keanu Reeves is only in the close-ups. If ever it's a wide and stuff like that, it's someone else because they could probably only get him for like a day or two. Or
day, yeah.
But did you ever watch a cartoon back in the day called The Toxic Crusaders, which is like a spin-off from The Toxic Avenger?
Yes.
Yeah, this
it
to
is.
me
I
felt...
get it confused with the McDonald's thing.
What was that one?
There was a McDonald's kind of characters that were like that.
Okay.
I can't remember what that was called.
I remember there was a game, a McDonald's video game. But so the Toxic Crusaders was a spin-off of the Troma movie, which was like a nasty little kind of silly, low-budget horror superhero film. But
was it James Gunn?
No, he didn't write those. It was Lloyd Kaufman who did those.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
James Gunn came in a bit later.
On for
Tromeo and Juliet.
Tromeo and Juliet, yeah.
So, but this film feels more like the Toxic Crusaders movie. So if you look at those toys and stuff, they look a lot like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to watch it because it's just if someone gave me $12 million, that's probably what I'd have made.
It would end up something like that. I loved the claymation stuff and all that kind of imaginative. I was well on board for that. I think it was just, I felt like the script needed another going over.
There was some gags that really made me laugh though. There was like, each character kind of has like a, when it kind of like goes into their memory of how they became the freak.
Yeah.
And they keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter until he gets to a hammer on the floor. And his flashback is that he was once a spanner.
Sorry. That made me laugh too. Actually, I really like that.
And the kid made me laugh. The troll.
Oh, I found the kid really annoying.
He looks like the Mad Magazine kid.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's got fake. Has he got fake ears on?
Fake ears and fake teeth. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Couldn't quite tell.
But yeah, watch Freaked. It's on YouTube and it's free to watch.
It's free to watch.
Thank me later.
It's very short. Oh, that was what made me laugh. There's a Brooke Shields says something like, we've been here for 90 minutes and we still haven't got to the plot or something like, or introduced to something. I can't remember what she says. But because the film was so cut short, they've actually only been there for 60 minutes in the film. So obviously the script planned for them to be a lot longer. Like,
was she the pinhead as well?
Oh, was she?
I don't know. I was looking at it today. I was thinking, she looks. Anyway, from Freaked to today's movie. So what are we talking about today? So
I kind of thought, I think Ollie might not like me for this, but I kind of thought it was stupid if two British people do films about the 90s and don't explore Merchant Ivory would be a mistake, because Merchant Ivory at this time was just huge. Like, to the point that Merchant Ivory didn't even mean films made by that production company. It actually just meant a genre of film. Like, films that weren't even this production company that were called Merchant Ivory Pictures.
Right.
And that was kind of like, any kind of these English costume drama kind of romance films. So
they're two different people, aren't they? So Merchant Ivory.
James Ivory and Ismail Merchant.
And weren't they wasn't it set up to make like English Indian movies or something like that? Yeah,
the writer that they often worked with was Ruth Prowler. I get a name. I'm going to say her surname badly, but it's Jafbad, I think, or something. I apologise for my pronunciation. So they were the kind of three force of it, and they had their huge success in the kind of 1980s with a view.
Howard's.
No, Howard's. Oh my God, A Room with a View.
Room with a View.
With Helen Bonham Carter in it.
Okay.
And that was, I actually watched that yesterday, kind of after watching this, and
really?
It really holds up actually.
I need to watch that one.
They're all these films are these kind of grand, softly shot kind of films, wide open landscapes. They're often costume dramas, but they're always kind of historical in nature. So you've got stuff like The Bostonians that also stars Christopher Reeve, like this film, and then you've got stuff like Maurice, I think it's called. Is it Maurice? That was well ahead of its time with Hugh Grant in it, about a gay love story in kind of Edwardian Britain, which we came out in like 1984, so it came out during like the AIDS crisis, and people at the time just weren't ready for it. But now it's actually really holds up as this kind of incredible kind of LGB filmmaking in a period when no one was doing this.
Because they did Call Me by Your Name as well, didn't they?
They did, yeah. So I was going to say, they kind of, after this film, they almost decline quite sharply. This, like, Howard's Way the year before this was huge. Remains of the Day comes out this year, and it's again huge. But they kind of struggle then to kind of get other films going. There's a Picasso film that starred Anthony Hopkins as well.
Okay.
And I think around 2000, there's an Uma Thurman film called The Golden Cup or something like that. I'm going to get that name wrong. But they kind of just disappear out of the picture.
So what film are we talking about then? You're burying the lead.
Yeah, I am bearing the lead a little bit, but that's a bit of context on Merchant Ivory. But today we're going to talk about Remains of the Day.
For the past 30 years, this has been the world of Stevens the butler.
A man cannot call himself well contented until he has done all he can to be of service to his employer.
Within the protective walls of Darlington Hall,
what happens within this house during the conference could have repercussions on the whole course that Europe is taking.
I understand fully.
he has led a life of perfect order and total control.
You don't like to have pretty girls on the staff, I've noticed. Might it be that our Mr. Stevens fears distraction?
Good-looking woman.
A first-rate housekeeper is essential in a house like this where great affairs are decided.
But as the world outside was changing,
The United States does not want war any more than you do. On the other hand, neither would we care for peace at any price.
so was the world inside Darlington Hall.
You do realize that over the last few years his lordship has been the most important pawn that the Nazis have in this country?
It is not my place to be curious about such matters.
We have some refugee girls on the staff. You'll have to let them go. They're Jews.
So, Remains of the Day is a film about Anthony Hopkins, who's a butler that serves at one of these old grand houses that you get in England. And it's about his period of his life when he was serving James Fox's master. And they hire a new housekeeper, which is Emma Thompson, who kind of falls into his life. And it's about his struggle to break his kind of traditions, to kind of be honest to himself about kind of going after her, or kind of keeping this kind of obsession with his place in society, really, and he kind of ruins his life over it.
Yeah.
Is that a good summary of this film? It's hard to kind of summarize.
I guess the majority of it's set during the late 20s and the 30s.
30s, yeah.
But then it flashes forward, or to the mid 50s.
Yeah.
Where he's going to meet her again after a long absence of not seeing her.
Yeah, she eventually leaves the house. She marries.
But, so what did you think of it?
What did I think of it? I actually really loved this film in a way that I didn't think I was going to. It really surprised me. Yourself?
Yeah, I loved it as well.
Oh, did you? Wow.
I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was fantastic. But that said, I don't know how much I have to say about it, but I know that I loved it. It's one of my dad's favourite films as well.
Okay.
As a fact.
It's an incredibly British film. Incredibly. I think it might struggle to play outside of Britain a little bit, because it's about that repressiveness of British society, and that the way tradition really represses British people as well. And it gets all that into this film in a way that I don't think I've seen it portrayed in quite the same way before, which I thought was really interesting. I know it's based on a book, a very successful book, Booker Prize winning, by a British Japanese guy called Kazuo Ishiguro, who's now a Sir Kazuo Ishiguro, I should say. And I wonder if him being he's British, but I wonder if being kind of born from a foreign family meant that some way he got an outsider's view a little bit of British society and was able to kind of write British society in this way, in a way that maybe British people might struggle to sometimes.
Well, I didn't know if, because he comes from a Japanese family, that his family's culture may have helped inform the story about their hierarchical nature of.
Maybe he saw connections.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
From Japanese culture to his, but I mean, he moved to England when he was, I think, 3 or something. So
he wasn't born here then.
No, he was born in Japan and they moved here very young.
Okay.
So he definitely really only understood, he would have understood British society from that massively. I find one of my first notes in this, Christopher Reeve is in this, which is
I was really shocked.
Great.
I was really shocked to see him in this, because it's been a long time since I've seen a film that I haven't seen with Christopher Reeve in it. And I was like, oh shit, it's Christopher Reeve, and it felt for a brief minute he was back again.
Yeah,
and
totally.
it was nice because I've always liked Christopher Reeve.
He's everything. The stuff that he does outside Superman he's really good in it. Have you ever seen that weird Christopher Reeve film about when he falls in love with an old lady, so goes back in time to date her?
You have actually. I have seen that.
It's
I've been
weird.
trying to find. I couldn't remember. I was thinking about it the other day, and I couldn't remember what it was called.
I'm trying to remember its name.
But
Time After Something.
Time After Time, isn't it? Is it Time After Time?
No, it's not Time After Time. That's a 1979 film, I think.
But Time After Time is the one with H.G. Wells goes to kill the Jack the Ripper or something.
It's Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time, 1980 it is. It's such a fucking weird... And he kind of goes back in time by hypnotising himself.
To be fair to him, he was a good Superman. You can't deny him that.
Great Superman. He's great in this. I wrote down that, you know, the early scene when you're seeing the 1950... Because the American guy, Christopher Reeve, ends up buying this house. A lot of the film is kind of about the British kind of insecurity of being overtaken by kind of American imperialism. By the American coming in and buying one of these grand houses, that's kind of a big statement of we're losing our tradition kind of thing. But that early scene when they're kind of still in the same room talking, I wrote down there's a bit of a Bruce Wayne Alfred vibe to that relationship.
Oh, I 100% thought Anthony Hopkins or Tony, depending on if you're friends with him, he would have made a perfect Alfred.
He got offered it, didn't he?
Did he?
I think before. I think.
For Kane or.
Yeah, I think so, and he turned it down. I think.
Okay. To be fair, Kane was a great Alfred anyway. But anyway,
Kane's a fantastic Alfred. But I even saw like Christopher Reeve. I was like, Christ, he would have made a really good Bruce Wayne, like really good Batman as well.
Yeah. Well, he's got the perfect physique for it, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I have to say, one thing that shocked me about this film is how much it spoke to us now. For me, like, I think it might even speak to modern Britain better than it did when it came out in 1993. Obviously, it speaks to the past, but I don't think in 1993 the messages of this film would have rung so heavily the way it did now in the kind of political sense, because a big part of this film is the fact that James Fox's character is a Nazi, and he gets kind of subsumed by the kind of Nazi authoritarian stuff. And
well, is he a Nazi or is he just easily led and persuaded?
Well, he's persuaded to become a Nazi, basically, like,
because they obviously suggest later on that he realizes he was wrong in his way of thinking, or
I don't think he realizes he was wrong. I don't think he realizes he was wrong. I think he realizes that it's almost like he got caught out by it. Like,
so the thing is, he apologizes. He apologizes for getting the two girls sacked, but he's still having meetings later on, isn't he? So I wonder, is he having a conflict with himself then, or
I think it's a general conflict a lot of people.
Because this is not based on a true story.
Well, he's based on a true figure, though. He's based on Oswald Mosley, which is
that's
the
what
head
I was going to get there.
Yeah, the head of the British Nazi Party. And there's so much about this film in that. Like, I found it fascinating how Anthony Hopkins' character allowed kind of fascism to happen because he was embarrassed to kind of speak up about it.
Yeah.
Like, he allows those two kids to go to the Holocaust just because he couldn't break his position in society.
Yeah.
And he couldn't see himself to break his master, basically, because he knows his place in this.
But it's like everything's perverted in this film. Like, relationships are totally perverted because of the hierarchy, so people can't say what they really feel or what they really want to say.
Well, it's funny. It's the way the film works is, well, the way society works, the way the film portraying it is the fact that these upper class people, the people running the house, the people kind of who are having these meetings, they kind of pretend that the working class people are part of this world. Like, they pretend that the butler is a part of this and is an important part of this. What is reality is that because they're upholding these traditions and upholding this kind of strategy and stratigraphy in life, is the fact that they're ruining the people's lives below them.
Yeah.
That they don't see that. Like Anthony Hopkins thinks that by being part of this world, it will help him become like a better person and fulfill his life. But actually, what you're seeing is by him playing this game of tradition and by playing this game of the upper classes, it ruins him. It not only gets people killed, it supports Nazism, it helps fascism rise, and he can't even admit to the woman he loves that he loves her at any point because he knows it would go against his teachings as part of this world. And I thought that was brilliant.
Well, he's just wasted his life, hasn't he? Emotionally and politically, like he's just
everything.
He's a nothing at the end of the day. He's got no thought. Like when the one guy asks him for his opinion on various topics.
My good man, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir?
Do you suppose the debt situation regarding America is a significant factor in the present low levels of trade? Or do you suppose this is a red herring, and that the abandonment of the gold standard is at the root of the problem?
I'm sorry, sir, but I'm unable to be of assistance in this matter.
Oh dear, what a pity.
Like class and tradition and subservience to this kind of turned him into his own worst enemy. Like he kind of messes his life up over this obsession with tradition and his role of responsibility, and he lets the world just pass him by, really. And I really like how the American guy is warning us that we're heading for a disaster, like and if we don't embrace kind of real politics,
it's gentleman's politics.
Yeah, and these men are like, no, it's gentleman's politics, and it's so about modern Britain now. Like this film is about the Rees-Moggs, the kind of Boris Johnsons, about the fact that
boys.
English people love a posh man in a suit, and we think that they're the people who do politics for us. So these upper class people who are fucking clueless about so much stuff, and this film has all that in it, and I couldn't believe it. I was not expecting it to be there in this script. I was not expecting it at all. I was saying that like there's a cut when they're having their big party and all the Nazis are upstairs discussing kind of Nazi bullshit. And they cut to the people in the kitchen, work in the kitchen. They cut to kind of the butler and the gardener and stuff like that. And I was saying, you could make this now, and that could be people working in a Wetherspoons or people working in an Amazon warehouse. It's the same class problem. It's just because it's hidden in this kind of very posh society of the 30s, but it's the same structural problem we have in this country right now still. And this manages to portray the fact that working people are trapped in this problem, are ruining their own lives over this, and they're being kind of fed scraps from the upper classes to pretend that you're part of this society, but actually it ends up will ruin you and it will destroy you, and your inaction will lead to stuff like fascism on the rise, and it will lead to kind of these issues and authoritarianism to be kind of increased in the world because you're stuck in this role of tradition and you don't want to break it. And I have to say, I really sang to me this film did in a way that I didn't think it was going to at all. And I felt like it's in a modern Britain, it really worked for me.
Well, it's a very clever film that on one hand it's like a repressed love story, and on the second hand it's this political kind of. But it's just very clever how they intertwine the two together.
Yeah,
and it's quite subtle in the way that it does it as well. It's not like in your face, but it's. And I tell you, I thought the music was like, because you can speak probably more to the undertones of the film, whereas I probably look at it more on a surface level on like how it was produced and how it was made and stuff. But like for me, if a film's got a good score in it, I'm usually in. And the score was fantastic.
Yeah, sure. The score's epic. Yeah.
And I just thought it was a fantastic score.
That's a proper Merchant Ivory thing, that kind of big score. It's like shot with this beautiful big camera, big like soft colours and soft lighting and stuff.
So his name is Richard Robbins, and he's pretty much done all of the Merchant Ivory films. Okay. And then Tony Pierce Roberts, who was the cinematographer, he'd also worked on several Merchant Ivory films. But he also was the DP on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, wonderful.
De Lovely. If you haven't seen De Lovely, you should watch that one.
I haven't seen De Lovely. Okay.
Doom.
No way, cool.
Underworld and Jungle to Jungle with Tim Allen. So he's had an interesting career.
Oh my god!
I was going to say one of my favourite moments was just a little moment at the beginning, and I'm assuming they're just going out on a fox hunt or something like that. They were going out on a ride, and there's just one shot of of Anthony Hopkins pouring a glass for his master and just holding it out to him while he's being ignored, and it's just that
ignored.
such a poignant. A poignant moment that was. And it just says a lot without saying.
Same thing later on. I think you mentioned this earlier. The scene when the asshole is questioning about politics, and he knows that the guy can't answer them. He knows that the guy won't have an opinion, but he's doing it to point out that he doesn't have. And it's such this kind of, this is the way these people think about working men, and they still think about it this way. That the working man can't have an opinion on politics, but look at this idiot over here working for his life. And that scene really cut me to the core, I have to say. It really worked for me. And what I was also going to mention that in the 1950s bit of the film, when he's going to go see Emma Thompson now that she's broken up with her husband, and you kind of hope that he will kind of admit to her that he loves her, which he doesn't, which is heartbreaking. But
they say a lot to each other without
saying it. Yeah, he's in that pub, and you realise that he's held this position all his life, and he's a grand butler of this house, and that means a lot to him in his world. But as soon as he goes to the West Country, good old West Country, as soon as he comes over to West Country and he's in this world, it means nothing. People don't give a shit about him, and actually think it's a bit silly, And he's his father died in this position, in the fact that he wasn't even there when his father was dying. He's kind of given up so much for this role, and actually it was all a con by the kind of his masters. Really, they've conned him into kind of losing most of his life, into telling him that it's really important. And I felt really sad. I felt really sad for him watching that.
The whole film is sad though. The whole relationship with his father. How his father he was obviously at his level at one point, and then had to work under his own son, and then there was that weird hierarchical thing going on between them, and obviously he was making mistakes.
When it's the start of the film, and he's like, I've got two people to come into this employee, and one of them's Emma Thompson. He goes, and also there's Mr. Stevens, and they wheel in this kind of like zombie in a suit. And I was like, what? How could you possibly think he could work? I loved it. I loved that.
When Anthony Hopkins was offered the role, he thought he was being offered the role of the father.
Oh, really?
Because he thought he was too old to play that character. Yeah. So he was quite shocked to be asked to play the son.
Oh, don't worry, we've got Master Aemon to come out and play the father. I can't believe Master Aemon played the old dying father in this, and then 20 years later was playing the old blind dying master in Game of Thrones. I always find it fascinating how
I know
how people have these careers when they just play old dying men for so long. That's my favourite character in this, though.
He was the best by far. You've also got Ben Chaplin in it. Do you remember Ben Chaplin?
No, I don't think I do.
From Game On.
Oh, why? Okay, yeah.
Do you remember Game On?
Yeah, I do.
So he plays the one who goes off with the new housekeeper or whatever. I don't know, the new maid.
Yes. Yeah.
And funny enough, I got a friend request on Facebook by the roommate from Game On because we've got mutual friends, which was bizarre.
Did you accept that friend request?
I may have done. I'm not confirming or denying. Hugh Grant is one of his first films. He hasn't got floppy hair. But he's an interesting character as well, how he starts off and how he evolves over the film. He's not in it much, but it's when he comes back several years later, we see how he's grown up, and obviously he's learned about the birds and bees, I'm assuming. That was a good scene, that was.
That was a good scene. And he dies in the war as well. Which is kind of
you find out
sad,
he dies in the war, yeah.
But he's the socialist kind of journalist, isn't he? Kind of, and they all think he's an idiot, basically. When he's just trying to get by, I guess.
But that must have been before he broke big with 4 Weddings and a Funeral, I'm guessing.
It's the next year, isn't it? 2004, I think is. No, sorry, 1994, I think is 4 Weddings.
So Emma Thompson, she's just as guilty as Anthony Hopkins though for not saying how she feels. I know she's a bit more abrupt about it, like when she corners him in his room, because that's the only place she can corner him, in the corner of his.
It's the
like,
only
office.
time you're ever going to try and get conversation. Yeah.
And she finds out he's like reading like a romance novel.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's such a sweet little scene, and she thinks it's some trashy thing, and he's just like, I like to read books.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both stuck in this world and system.
Yeah, and she brings him those flowers, and he asks her not to. But clearly, later on, you see there's more flowers in there, so she is kind of chipping away at him a bit very slowly.
You see, it's all this romance happening behind the scenes, and neither of them are really talking about it, and the film doesn't even really talk about it that much because of that. I was so annoyed at the end when he doesn't.
They depart on the bus.
Yes. Oh, that's so sad.
Any final thoughts on the film?
I guess one, that it really surprised me. I didn't expect it to be the film that it is. I think a lot of costume dramas tend to be very obsessed with the romance, and this has all that romance in it, but it actually has something to say about society as well, which I didn't expect.
Yeah, it's got substance to it. I mean, for me, it had great music, great performances, fantastic cinematography, great use of natural light, and yeah, just the themes and that of the overall story I thought were really well handled.
Yeah, I didn't think it would sing to modern society in the way that I thought it did. Like the film about this creeping authoritarianism, which is very much about kind of modern politics today. This film about how the British love a posh man in a suit and refuse to see them for what they actually are. Like they think, well, he's nice to me, he can't be like a fascist. Like he can't be a horrible person, and he must have my best intentions at heart because he gives me this job and keeps me employed and stuff like that. And actually how the people in charge are keeping people in their own lane.
Well, it's like when he goes to the West Country and he goes to stay in that B&B and he meets, is it the doctor, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's asking him all the questions, like, and he's saying that he didn't know him, and then later on he admits, but I did know him and I liked him very much. Because I guess it's hard for him to separate the man that I'm guessing, had worked for probably decades to the man that he eventually became, and it's probably that hard. Like, do you remember the Jimmy Savile documentary, the second one that Louis Theroux did?
Yeah.
And he spoke to his assistant at the time, who Jimmy Savile fired, but she refused to believe that he was capable of doing any of these things, and it's just shows that you can be blinded by people's horrible actions because of the people you hope they were, or who they were originally, or
how they made you feel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like it's the same thing with the Jimmy Savile's really good as well, but same thing with like Michael Jackson stuff. People refuse to believe anything that comes out about Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson made them feel really good. They liked his stuff, and it's hard to admit sometimes that something could have been produced by a bad person that you really like. That's always difficult.
Oh, one last thing. Did you know that there was also a radio play of Remains of the Day?
I didn't know.
And there was also a musical.
No. Wow. A musical.
Someone whose life has gone to plan should be a well-contented man.
Look at the way we are, drowning in endless debt. How do we keep the walls of the ship? Surely it's not the thread.
Okay, you're on Letterboxd. What do you give this out of 5?
It's up there with 4.5, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to go 4.5. I wish I could speak more eloquently about it, but for me, just as a film, it worked. And for you, as a political kind of...
As a mirror to society and about politics. I've avoided saying
the B word.
Brexit word right now, but
yeah,
it's absolutely is about modern Britain, and we struggle to to act as a nation in our own interests and stuff, and it's absolutely about how the upper classes keep the working classes kind of subdued, about letting them into this kind of world, like you're part of this society, you've got a voice when actually people don't, and people don't have a voice, and I think it actually really speaks to that. And maybe that's this book being really precedent, or maybe it's just that our society is a lot more about the 1930s than we like to admit. Or something.
When was the original book written?
1989, so yeah, it was only 4 years before.
So, I mean, the writer could have been writing about what was going on in Britain at that time as well, and using it as like an allegorical kind of... Because we would have had Maggie Thatcher then, wouldn't we?
Yeah, the miners' strikes and stuff like that and things. So yeah, he probably was writing about Britain at the time. I was very surprised by the film.
It just goes to show, and it's sad that things don't really change all that much.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Or they do change, but then they have a nasty habit of reverting back, or I don't know.
Well, I think we're all caught in these cycles, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's that inability to drop tradition I really liked about this film.
So what's next?
I figured we'll play a little game. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that Anthony Hopkins doesn't have three brothers, does he?
No, he doesn't. This isn't going to be the game I came up with. This is just I figured we'd do the letterbox game again.
Okay.
But it's not going to be about Anthony Hopkins. It's going to be about my favourite actor in this film, Peter Vaughan.
No, okay, go on then.
And I think you'll know all these films. I just don't know if you'll know Peter Vaughan's in them. So that might be the challenge, really.
Can I just say, one of my favourite moments in that film is though when Anthony Hopkins is showing him how to use a mop. That was a brilliant scene. That was.
It's the best scene in the world. If I find any dust and dirt, give me a good going over with this mop. Anyway, we'll start with number 9 because I don't think you'll get number 10. We'll start with number 9, which I think you'll get. This film is from 1960, but it very famously had a remake in the 80s that starred Christopher Reeve. Sorry, the 90s it was actually, wasn't it? 1995 the remake came out. And it's about an English village that all the kids are very similar.
Village of the Damned?
Yep, that's right.
Hey!
Original Village of the Damned. You need a little ding mark. Number 8, this is based on a book. It came out in 1996. It stars 2 huge actors at the time. One of them is basically the best actor ever. That's kind of what people think of him for. And the other one she was really famous in like Tim Burton films, and at the time was one of the biggest actresses in the 90s.
Early Tim Burton or latter Tim Burton?
Early Tim Burton.
So that's got to be Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
And then the best actor.
Irish actor.
Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes. So Daniel Day-Lewis.
Is it
Winona
like
Ryder.
biblical one? Is she like a witch in it? No.
Yes. It's about the witch trials.
Crucible.
That's it. Yep.
That's the one.
I knew you'd get it.
Yes.
This is a Frank Oz film from 2007.
Okay.
It had an American remake that was a pile of shit.
Oh, I know this one. Funeral. Oh, fuck. What's it called?
That's the one.
Death at a Funeral. Yeah, didn't Chris Rock remake it?
He did. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
And Peter Vaughan's the best character in that as well. He plays the old granddad. He's got like Alzheimer's, and like he falls asleep on the toilet. I think he dies on the toilet. I can't remember. But
isn't the brother from My Family in it? That's all I remember.
Yes, that famous brother who's in Love Actually.
Oh yeah.
One of the worst plot lines in Love Actually. So the 4th film is Remains of the Day, so we won't do that. 3rd film, it is a Terry Gilliam film from 1981.
Well, if I know my Gilliam, Jabberwocky was like 78, 79 or something. Is it Time Bandits?
It is Time Bandits, yeah. I didn't want to start naming cast because you'd get it immediately, so I was hoping you'd...
Wasn't he in a few Gilliam films, though?
He was. We'll get to number 1 soon.
Okay.
1971 film, directed by Sam Peckinpah. It's quite a violent film, starring Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, Straw Dogs.
Yeah, Straw Dogs, yeah. I think you got all of these. And number 1, as you say, Terry Gilliam film from 1985. Star of this film was in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Brazil.
Brazil, yeah, totally. Man, you got all of those.
To be honest, though, I wouldn't have got them from him being in them. It's because I know the directors and the films they've made.
No, I know. That's why. Well, that's why I thought it was. He's a great actor, and I think he's always been this character actor, like proper thespian character actor stuff. So I thought it'd be fun to go through his films rather than like Anthony Hopkins, which is all Thor now, basically, and Hannibal, which.
But he had a great career.
Yeah, he did,
and lived till he was 93, and only finished working in like a few years ago.
He died in 2016, didn't he? So he was literally working right up to his death, basically.
Okay, so what are we talking about next time then?
Okay, next week we're going to be looking at 1994, and it's going to be Chungking Express.
Oh, I've had this for years. I found it in a second-hand store on Blu-ray for about £1.
Oh, good steal!
And apparently it goes for a pretty penny on eBay now.
Really?
But I have literally no idea what this film is about.
Don't you? Okay. It's directed by Wong Kar-wai, and it was released by Miramax as well, which did get it a bit of kind of American attention when it came out. But it's set in Hong Kong, and it's going to be our first foreign language film, actually.
Oh yeah, it will be, won't it?
I'm pretty sure it's shot in Chinese Mandarin, I think. I'm not sure. But I think it's a Hong Kong film anyway.
The only other Wong Kar-wai film I've seen is 2046. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that, actually. Maybe I'll have to have a bit of a deep dive in Wong Kar-wai.
He also directed My Blueberry Nights.
Oh, okay.
So, just to the audience, if it sounds like we're a little bit stilted, I'm going to try and edit it as best as I can, but the internet is severely lagging at the moment.
Yeah,
so, I'm going to do my best to edit it so it's there's not massive gaps in between, but there might be a bit of a weird interaction between Liam and myself on this one.
Well, yeah, bit of technical issues this record, hasn't there been? So, but hopefully it's not too bad.
So anyway, we'll see you next time when we talk through Wong Kar-wai's Chungking Express. Hope you can find a copy out there. It's not the easiest one to find, but you know, where there's a will, there's a way. So yeah, don't forget to add us on Twitter. We are at Adjust Your Track with a YR. And don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. And please, as always, if the picture's bad, don't forget to adjust your tracking.